my turn to do the introduction, I guess, to the Taggart and Brandon podcast. Everybody.
Welcome.
Yep. This is Brando. Heyo.
Heyo.
And that is Taggart. Heyo.
Hey-ho.
That's our harmony. That's good. I thought you were going to go lower, but...
See, that I switched it up. You know, I don't want to do anything that, you're expecting,
Good. It sounds like we're trying to get something coherently done here, but...
Exactly.
Yeah. But as you might expect, we're going to talk about some things today, as we typically do, with a listener-suggested... or listener-inspired, I guess we could call it, question of the day.
Uh-huh.
We got a triggered memory.
Yes.
And we are gonna do the new. What is the new?
What is the new for you?
Yeah. And, Taggart, how you doing
this
fine evening?
I'm doing all right. Pretty good. I'm tired, but I'll try not to let that affect my conversation. Good.
I'm not gonna lie. I took a little nap before this.
That is messed up. We're supposed to coordinate these things.
I was like, we were watching TV, and I was just like, I got half an hour. I'm gonna take a little snoozer.
I'm gonna crash out
after eating some pancakes. We decided to do like a breakfast for dinner thing. Like we've done it probably like the last 2 weeks in a row, and planned it for next week as well. Just because breakfast is just too much. It's too much to start your day with a big old breakfast.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. You're not taking the full English breakfast every day.
No, man. Like, I just can't get my day. Because here's the thing. My day is get to work by 7 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
And that usually entails rolling out of bed at 6:35 to leave the house at 6:40.
Right.
Like it is slap on deodorant, pull pants that are already ready to go on, socks, shoes, and walk out the door, kind of a thing. So I don't have like this whole breakfast plan thing, and then when I get to work, there's like fruit and yogurt and stuff, and so I usually work for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And then I just take a little break and get some of my freshness in the morning.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny because that's what I used to do at the last like corporate type job that I had. They had tons of food and cereal there and stuff like that. Yep. And wait for my first break, and then I'd go get me some cereals and some granola bars or whatever. So. Mm-hmm. I hear you there, man.
Yeah, like, as opposed to, like, this, like, let's wake up at, 7 and get everybody up and get some breakfast going, go get the paper, go get ready for the day, get your suit and tie on, have some eggs and bacon and read the morning paper and head out the door. You are hitting on something that I must interject. This is one of my biggest qualms with movies. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's a superhero movie. I don't care if it's like a crazy sci-fi where the physics doesn't make sense. If there's somebody who sits down for a breakfast and they have time to watch the news and be chill in the morning, I'm like, this is fake. Like the scene that I'm getting is, I don't know if you remember it from like the Never-Ending Story 2 is like with like what's his name from Major Dad and everything. Like he's just like they have like like a full-on breakfast, and I don't even think there's a mom in that story. No, I mean power to the single parent families, but like I grew up in a single parent family, and that is not how it was at all. like there's not like this like I mean I don't remember. I mean, this is a whole different thing, but I don't remember doing breakfast that much as a kid before school, even. Yeah. Maybe I did, but I just don't have any memories of just being like, oh, let's get up and.
But it was like a bowl of cereal or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like, this is what it is, and bye.
Yeah, you're more worried about your lunch, you know?
Oh, yeah. If I don't have something to eat later, I'm going to be upset.
Right, exactly.
That's 2 meals I missed today.
Yeah. But whoever's getting up early enough to do eggs and bacon and, you know, hash browns and whatever, it's like, no way.
If you have 5 minutes to sit at the table after you finished your bran muffin and chill in the morning, that's not real. That's fake.
Right. Exactly. Anyway, I mean, unless your like commute is like, you know, like half a block away, I don't even know. Well, not even like on a Sunday. A lot of times, even on like a Sunday, I'm not like that.
No,
you know?
No, but that's still even the thing. Even if your commute's 5 minutes away, you're gonna wake up 10 minutes before you gotta be there. You're like, no, I need to get all the sleep I can get, and then we're driving real quick to get there.
Right. Exactly.
Waking up 3 hours before just to sit at the table for a few of them.
Exactly. Let's all have a meal.
We talk about the important topics here. No one's talking about this in movies. That's not like real.
This is like when Harry Met Sally, when they're like talking about bad breath in bed. You know,
right?
like 100%. Like. It's all about, like, you brush your teeth before you go to bed because then you might not wake up with the worst breath ever.
Right.
You know? Right. And, like, we have, like, water bottles next to the bed, you know, because, like, yeah, you're just going to be like, okay, that's great. I really want to sit here in bed talking to you. I'll just face this way, though.
Right.
But yeah. Anywho, what is we talking about today with the question of the day? You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Yes, this was inspired by a listener when we were talking about going back in time and making our document series on and everything. This person turned it a little more personal and asks, what day would you go back of your own life to watch? That could have probably been phrased a little better. That's why it said it's inspired. If you could go back and watch a day of your own life, what day would it be? It's toughy.
This is toughie.
If it's especially if it's set to one specific day.
Well, yeah. If all you get's a day, what day would I watch? This is hard. I think because here's the thing: for like really special moments in my life, I don't know if I'd want to go back and necessarily watch those.
Okay, explain.
Well, I don't know. It's just like that was a special day, and that day happened, and like I don't know. Like it's almost like it's a reverence for that day, so I don't want to go back and like be able to like see all the little things.
You remember the important stuff,
right? I don't want to go see all the details that I was like, oh, that wasn't great, or oh, whoops, I don't remember that part. So yeah, so it's weird. I don't know. I wouldn't want to do that, but
it's a good point.
But yeah, but like that's the first things you think of is like, well, you know, the day I got married, or like the day my children were born, and
Boring.
No, love those kids, but like those were like not without their stresses, and I don't know if I'd want to just like, and there was a lot of waiting, especially for the kids. There was a lot of waiting,
right?
And my wife is laughing. I don't know if I would necessarily want to sit through that whole day and oh.
No, I think that's true because our listener pointed out it's like he'd want to go back and watch like his whole life, basically just play his whole life on repeat and all that kind of different stuff, and that's like
really
kind of sounds interesting at first, but like you really kind of sit there and think about it. Like, I'll tell you something about your wedding day. Like, you fell asleep in the back of the car.
Oh,
you know? And it was, like, super cute or whatever. But, like, what are you doing while you're sleeping? Like, you're just listening to me and my brother talk about you guys while we're getting Chick-fil-A or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're right. Like, you're pacing in the hospital.
Right.
Waiting for your kids, and you're just kind of like, oh, I remember that, vending machine, or, I remember just kind of
right. There's just a lot of filler details that you're like, well, this is not why I actually came back to watch this day.
And I guess kind of the funny thing about that too is those are days that stick out. Like, your kids are going to ask, oh, what was it like when I was born? And you're like, oh, okay, right. So it's like your mom and I were in line at the grocery store, and she turns to me and says, and the whole story starts, right? And like, you're going to have like a play-by-play that's pretty detailed,
right?
Right. So, I mean, not to influence, what you're going to say, but I think it's more of like, what days don't you remember,
Right.
And that's harder to think of. And
that's way harder, because you're like, I know there's some important days that I'd want to see that I don't. There's got to be a day
that I just
all.
Don't remember, that I want to go back and be like, oh my gosh, now I remember this day. Oh, and everything.
Right.
And so, oh man, now I can't think of anything.
I'm leaning toward, and I don't know the specific day, but I'm leaning towards something like when I was a child.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Mostly because, like, I don't know. I just, obviously it's a big difference from being an adult to being a child, and like your responsibilities and like how you view the world and all this other things. And I don't know, I think it might be refreshing to go back and watch me play for a whole day and just be like, dude, I don't know. It didn't take a lot to abuse me, in a good way.
Right.
Like,
right. Uh-huh.
I don't know. And like, even watching, like, me watch a, like, TV show or something, that seems dumb, but when you show a movie to a friend that hasn't seen it, and you're like, I want to see their reaction to these kind of things.
Right.
It'd be cool to go back and, even as a child, be like, oh, he's going to watch this show? Oh, yeah, myself is going to love this. And then watch you react to something that you love. I don't know.
I think
that's kind of weird, but
no, I don't think it's weird at all. Because I think like one of the things, like, would be something like the first time you saw like Star Wars, or more importantly, like Empire Strikes Back, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something that now you don't necessarily have a specific memory for. Like, I don't, have a specific memory for the first time I saw it, because it probably was on VHS.
Yeah.
Like, at my dad's house somewhere,
Well, it's funny that you say that. Like, I do have a specific memory for the first time I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay.
It was on TV, and my dad was like, you should come watch this. And I was like, okay. And I hadn't seen any of them. I was still pretty young. I mean, the third one, Angels of the Last Crusade. I couldn't think of the tag. Oh, the Last right. Crusade wasn't out yet. Like, it hadn't been out yet. Mm-hmm. And I remember, because I don't know, the thing I remember the most isn't necessarily the show, but I was the feeling I had afterwards. Like, that was amazing. And, and it was on TV, so I thought, oh, it's just like a television show. Like, I wonder when the next one is, basically. And I asked my dad, oh, when's it going to be on TV again? He's like, oh, I don't know, probably in like a year. And I was like, no!
Freaking streamer kids watching Troll World Tour 15 times in a day.
Exactly. Like you see Indiana Jones once, and you're like, dang it, when can I see this again? But right. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be, super interesting. Because, I mean, they've, you've seen footage of kids, like, watching it for the first time as, like, 7-year-olds or 5 or 6-year-olds and stuff like that. And everybody's, like, just, like, totally engrossed in it. Or, like you said, watching it with a friend for the first time and everything. So, I remember there is a day that I would want to go back to.
Ooh.
Where I was in my room, and I cleaned like my whole room.
Okay.
Like I was like, I want to say I was in trouble, and like had to clean my room, so I was like sequestered in my room for hours.
Yeah.
Probably what would take me now 25 minutes to do, it took me like 5 hours because I was so lazy and upset about it and, right. whatever, right? But the one thing I remember about that is I had at some point had brought in my mom's old typewriter up there, and I just started like typing on it. So I probably was like maybe 10 or 11, maybe 12, and everything. And I just like typed like this, like at that time, like it was probably like a page and a half, 2 pages, but it was like a lot, right? And like I typed this out and everything, and I just don't remember what I typed at all. And so
so was it like a story or something, but you don't remember?
Yeah, I don't remember, and I remember maybe coming across it a couple of years later, but not really keeping it or keeping track of it or something like that, and I kind of want to see what that was, like how stupid or insightful or some combination of the two, that would have been. Because I was just so angsty and upset and everything. But yeah, it just kind of, and that would really I guess, spending 6 hours with myself being a little turd would be a little frustrating. Just like, oh my gosh, kid, you could have gotten out of here an hour, so many hours ago if you just weren't being such a little brat. But yeah, just like being in there, just kind of seeing, what did I do? Just play, occupying my time, probably talking to myself, getting in my own thoughts and all that kind of different stuff. I think would be pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I don't have a specific day. I think I'll probably just pick some arbitrary summer day. Well, or I would pick a day when I had a birthday party. I had this core group of friends. So not necessarily my birthday party, but I had a core group of friends when I was in elementary school, and we'd have these birthday parties, every now and then for each of us, and there were these big things, big kind of road marks as a child, but I don't know, it was always super fun.
Going to Boardwalk or something.
Well, there were a few of those. The best ones were always just like when we went to my friends' homes. Those are the ones I remember the most. Though there was a couple memorable ones when we went swimming at Rampart. There's one or two that I can remember. But yeah, no, we would just go to their house and we would play games and ping pong and computer games and just stuff like that all night long. And I think that would be fun to kind of watch that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think one of the, now that you brought that up, a couple of days that I would want to see in New Jersey,
mm-hmm.
And this gets brought up all the time, we would go on these like family bike rides, and like I was always like the last one, and I got like, supposedly I like ran into a dumpster, and like they just like we were going around the school, and like they like look back and they're just like, where's Brandon? And like I just wasn't there, and I like hit the dumpster and like sprawled out, or I don't even know. I have no recollection of this at all, and I get made fun of for it all the time. So I definitely would want to go back and see that. But there's also
as hilarious as everyone says it was.
Yeah, but also like there were times I would like to go back to Lake Candle.
Oh.
It's this man-made lake that we would go to in New Jersey, and they had like a rope swing and they had these docks, and there's just different docks. They had rope swings, high dives, low dives, and different things like that. But they also had like a ping pong table and a jungle gym and all that kind of different stuff. There was just so much stuff to do. I would just kind of want to go back and see, like, you know, watch myself just kind of try to, you know, wander around finding the fun,
right?
You know, and all that different stuff. So
nice,
yeah. But yeah, definitely trying to figure out what I wrote in that letter or paper or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I want to say it was like a letter to myself or something. It was like, I don't know. It just kind of bugs me. I'm like, why didn't I keep that? Where is that? Like, what could that have said?
See, yeah.
You know?
The mysteries. That's what I'd want to see.
Yeah, exactly. Because you got the memories.
Exactly.
You want the mysteries.
I want the mysteries.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Good point. I guess it would be like, too, like if you remembered a time when you were like super, super scared and you don't know what was, you know, going on or whatever, it's like go back and be like,
was there actually something scary to be scared about when you had the like real intuition, or was it just like nothing's here, man, you're fine?
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe we'll get like some crazy hypnosis memory player thing to like, you know,
dude, that would be
get yourself in a trance.
Well, that would be crazy if you could go back and not just watch, but like also like hear your thoughts and things.
Yeah, I guess that would be the other question is, you know, would you prefer a third party kind of experience where you are like standing in the room, kind of Scrooge McDuck, Ebenezer Scrooge style. Yeah, Ebenezer Scrooge style, where you're like, there's this guy and there's this, and like, oh my gosh, all my playmates and everything, and you're like, oh, like, you know, taking a view from the outside so you can see more of a perspective, like stuff you missed, or getting down into your own mind where you're just like, it's like, oh no, this is me reliving it, and I'm like, this is me thinking about it again. Like,
I don't know. I think there's value on both ends, but I wonder if you watch it, if you would remember some of the thoughts that you had regardless. You know what I mean?
I think you would, yeah.
That would probably trigger some of that, so you kind of would at least know how you're feeling, and obviously you can kind of tell that body language and whatever. But I think for me, I don't know. I kind of want to see it in the third person, to be like, oh, this is actually how I was as a child, not being like influenced by my thoughts necessarily. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Because you never get to watch yourself, you know?
Right. I mean, there's a lot of times, like, I have memories of myself in a third person. It's just because you've heard a story so many times,
right.
You know? Like, but, no, I think that'd be interesting. Yeah, I think, too, like, yeah, that age, just like that, yeah, like, you know, 12, like, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, where you're, like, you are setting up your personality and stuff, so you can probably see that in yourself, but at the same time you're like, oh my gosh, this kid knows nothing. He knows nothing. I still know nothing, but at least I know this kid knows absolutely nothing.
At least I know that I know nothing. He doesn't even know that yet.
Exactly. But no, I mean, that's funny. We'll get that technology someday, right?
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yep. Because he pointed out, our listener pointed out that, you know, going, you know, if we had teleportation and a super powerful telescope, and I've thought about that too, like where if you could, you know, shoot out to, you know, 60 light years away and, you know, put a telescope seeing the Earth, you could see, you know, what's going on, you know, 60 years ago, right? If you could travel instantaneously and had a powerful enough light telescope. But
really, is that how that would work?
Well, yeah. I mean, more or less, like if you instantly traveled 60 light years away from Earth and looked back at Earth, the light reaching you would be the light that bounced off of whatever was happening 60 years ago. Yeah, exactly.
Right, I see what you mean. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, light scatters, and, you know, if you travel too far, you're going to catch, like, a photon, you know, like, because it radiates out, right?
Right.
So, you know, like, if you try to go back to, like, the time of the dinosaurs, you're going to get, like, a huge telescope would only capture, like, you know, 6 photons or whatever of what's going on, you know, at any given time. Crazy. So you couldn't really get a picture of it, but
right.
But yeah, I mean, like, that would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there you go. That's how we do it. Speaking of memories,
I was like, speaking of 60 years ago, let's talk about a triggered memory.
Okay.
So, triggered memory to this week. I wanted to ask about maybe some kind of talent that you would now consider like a hidden talent or something that you don't use very much.
Okay.
Do you have something like that you developed as a child or a younger person? And can you talk about doing that? Like what that process was like for you or whatever?
So one talent I had, or I discovered, and actually still do have.
Bragger over here.
So, ironically, I am very inflexible.
Okay.
Like, and we don't have to really get into it, but even at the presidential physical fitness test as a child, I was in the bottom percentile. I could do the arm hangs. Yeah. I could do the rope climbs. I could do all that kind of stuff. But that V-sit, dude, I could never. I was in the negative.
Never got that blue one, man. Always the red.
Yeah, terrible. But weirdly enough, I invite our listeners to do this with us. So make a fist with either one of your hands or both.
Doing it.
Stick out your index finger and your pinky finger straight out, like you're doing rock on symbol, right?
Index with pinky.
So you're holding your other two fingers, your middle two fingers, middle and ring, with your thumb. Now touch your index and pinky together.
Never.
So touch the tips of them.
Never can do that.
Never. How far away you got?
Dude, I'm like an inch. Like it's bad.
Okay.
Like I cannot. And that's on both sides. I cannot do that.
Yeah, so this guy at work when I was 16, literally just one day came up with this challenge. We were just pushing carts at Sam's Club, and he's like, "Hey man," he's like, "make a fist, stick out these two fingers, now touch them together." And I went, "Bink," and they just touch like easy as can be. And he's like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "What? Can you not do that?" And he's like. And he was just like you, like an inch. He's like, you know? And I'm like, oh. And I tried on my other hand, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, I totally got it. Like, both hands just, like, can touch. Like, and people will, like, when I show people will, like, cheat. Like, they'll let go with their thumb, so it's more like of a Spidey kind of web shooter.
Right.
And stuff. And they're like, oh, I can touch.
Trying to make more room with those fingers, but...
Exactly. I'm like, oh, if I do that, I can literally overlap my index finger over the nail of my pinky finger.
Get out, really?
Without it even hurting or anything. So, like, my that is...
hands are not constructed that way.
Yeah, that is... And, like, my hands aren't, double jointed in any other fashion. Like, I can't, like, my thumb... Like, if I do a thumbs up, it's straight up in the air. It doesn't have that back bend. I can't do... I mean, like I could play the piano and I can type and everything just perfectly fine, but I can't do, like, some people can, bend just one joint to their finger, like the top joint of their finger.
Right.
Or something weird like that. But yeah, that is just, like, whatever it is, whatever tendon or something is just loose enough on both of my hands to where my pinky and index finger can cross each other. And I don't think this has anything to do with it. It probably just kind of just also came easy to me. Because when I double cross my fingers, like, you cross your middle finger over your index finger, and then your ring finger over your pinky finger, like, I could just do that, pretty easily without using, like, the other hand to, like, manipulate it, And so...
I used to be able to kind of do that easier, but I can't really.
Yeah, so it's not something necessarily I developed unless I did that double finger cross so much that my hand just loosened up or whatever. But I don't know where he came up with that idea, since he and... 90% of the people I've ever showed that to
can't do it.
I'll say 99, because I've probably definitely showed it to 100 people. Maybe one person can do it. Like,
right.
And it's just, it was so easy for me. And so it's just, it's
crazy.
Very weird. Yeah.
Crazy.
What is that? Yeah. So that'll win you an award. That'll take that on America's Got Talent. I'm like, all right, just crack my fingers a couple times, like, just stick them both out.
Do it once, and you're like, that's
rock
it.
On, and then be like, bink, and everybody's like, whoa, and then you just see it would be interesting because you would see everybody in the audience.
People would be like, wait, what? That's not impressive. And then they would try it, and they'd be like, huh?
And it's like, you could just do it. It's like, yeah. Like,
and
what
you're
up,
like,
baby?
Golden buzzer.
Boop, 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 boop. That would actually be interesting to do to a crowd, because instantly everybody would just be like, I can't do that.
Right.
Like, I can use my other hand to, like, push them together. It's like, yeah, but can you do them both at the same time then? Nope.
Not even close, dude.
And you got huge, and that's the other thing is, it's like, I don't think my fingers are necessarily that much longer in proportion than anybody else's, you know?
I think it just must mean that you can move your, like, it's, because it's not just the fingers, right? Or is it? Mm-hmm. Or is it the muscles in the back of your hand that you're pushing the knuckles closer together to do it?
Not really.
Not really?
No, I mean, like, I can put my index finger over my middle finger, right? And I can put my pinky over my ring finger to where I can almost do the cross, the double cross we were talking about, the other way.
Really?
But it's not anything like, I don't know. I guess I don't know if it's kind of like how you can. It's okay. Another weird thing, if we're just gonna stay on this for another minute or two, is you know how your ring finger and your pinky are joined on the same tendon, and they go to basically the same muscle, right?
Right.
And so that's why you remember those. What do you call them? The robot claw, the gray robot claw thing from the 80s.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Yep. The one with the individual fingers. Yes. Yeah.
Like the thumb stationary, but then you had like the little pull down
for each of the
things
fingers.
For each of the fingers and stuff. Well, you can only articulate like the index finger and the index finger and the middle finger independently. And the pinky and ring finger were
joined, right?
The loop was joined together. Yeah, exactly. So on my left hand, I can move each finger independently of the other, no problem. Like my pinky, I can wiggle my pinky without wiggling any other finger. Like I just bend it down and back. My ring, index, and middle. But on my right hand, I can't move my pinky independent of my ring finger.
At all.
Like, I can... Anytime I try to bend my pinky, my ring finger's coming down like a little bit. But my ring finger I can move independent of my pinky. So it's weird because my hands are not necessarily even jointed the same, like, wired the same.
Well, yeah, that's something that you can learn out of, though, of your hands. I mean,
don't know, man. I've tried.
Well, think of a guitar player. You use those two fingers independently when you're playing all the time.
Right.
But really only on the one hand. I mean, well, picking, I guess you can pick too much with your pinky. Some people do. But
right, but I mean, like I could pick with my pinky, and just my ring finger just wouldn't be touching the strings,
sure,
But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it was at that time in my life when I learned guitar, my left hand just was like, "You need to work independently,"
right?
And my right hand's like, "Oh, I'm just holding the freaking pick, man. I got this."
Exactly.
Exactly.
I wouldn't surprise me at all. If that's
you wouldn't surprise you?
No, I said that wouldn't surprise me.
I wouldn't surprise myself if I even tried. Okay, well, what did you surprise yourself with the hidden talent? What hidden talent do you have? Segue.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, it's not a body thing, so
good.
It doesn't go with that, but when I was a kid, I did a lot of, I don't know, how would I classify these things? I don't know. I was solitary enough that I did a lot of solitary type activities. So
okay.
So I don't know, pseudo athletic solitary activities. So
okay, independent like athletics,
like magic and juggling and yo-yoing.
Oh, got it.
And
okay,
that kind of
okay.
So
physical talents that only require one individual. Got it.
Sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my claim to fame as those things go, is there's a yo-yo trick called the UFO, where, okay, you have to know a little bit about yo-yoing. Do you know what a sleep is? How you sleep your yo-yo?
If I know my yo-yos, it is basically at the bottom of, like, the yo-yo is at the bottom of the string spinning without being retracted until the yo-yoer calls for it.
Yeah.
Whatever
yo-yo.
Yeah.
Oh, yo-yo.
Yeah. So it looks like it's just hanging there, but it is spinning. Right. It can be easily whipped back up.
Right.
At any time.
Exactly. That's called sleep. So it's spinning at the bottom, but it's almost spinning so fast that it's not catching on the string to roll back up.
Because if I may...
You may.
Kind of go into a little bit of... I mean, if you haven't gone through a yo-yo phase in your life, people out there, get yourself a Dunkin' and have some fun.
You gotta try it.
Because really, it's great.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to understand that, like, yeah, there's the little bar in between the two plastic pieces of the yo-yo, and slightly bigger than that is the loop of the string.
Right.
And the only reason, or the main reason, I should say, that it goes back up the string is because the string gets pinched in between itself and the plastic. And then the momentum of the spinning carries it back up the string. So if you can sleep it, you're basically have it to where there's no pinch and it's just the loop and the piece of metal in the middle is usually it's metal. It's just like rolling on inside that. And so when you give it a little kick, you introduce slack, and that slack gets pinched and rolls up. Am I right on that?
Sounds right to me. Physics master.
Okay.
So the sleep is the basis of almost all yo-yo tricks. You think of walk the dog, that's a sleep that you put on the ground that rolls forward. You think of rock the baby, you've slept it and then done a little cradle that you can swing the sleep through. Like, it's the basis of almost all. Around the world is a sleep that you throw out and then spin it around. You know? So,
because you have to just be able to, like, the yo-yo has to keep spinning in order to end the trick efficiently by bringing it back to your hand.
Right.
So any of these moves, it's like, oh, I'm doing these things, but at the same time, I have control of the yo-yo.
If you can't bring it back up, then you've failed the trick. So this trick is tough, the UFO, because you throw it to the side.
Okay.
So instead of throwing it down or out and getting it to sleep, you throw it sideways. So across your body. So if you're right-handed, like I am, I'm going to throw it left. And I'm going to throw it as sideways as I can so that it's almost Frisbee positioning.
So the yo-yo is horizontal.
Exactly.
At this point.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And if you do it right, you can throw it, grab the string with your other hand so that there's just a little, maybe a couple, 3 inches or something of string above the yo-yo. And you're grabbing it there. And then, of course, the rest of the string is then going back to your right hand. But what it does, if it sleeps, then it starts spinning sideways with the string going around it.
Okay.
So, thus, UFO. And then...
So it's still horizontal. So it looks like a hamburger.
Exactly.
Just floating in the air with the string just whipping around the top.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you kind of throw it up with your left hand and then wig it back with your right, and it'll fly sideways back into your hand. It's a difficult trick. And as a child, I had I want to say that it came with my Dunkin', but it might have came with a different yo-yo I had. there was a little booklet that came with it. It showed you a lot of different tricks. Mm-hmm. So so you could go through and be like, oh well, I've mastered this trick. I've learned this next one. I can do this one, and they build on each other, But there was a lot of tricks before this that I could never do. So this was like farther back in the book. There was a lot of tricks after this trick that I could never do. But this was like
just skip into the middle. Okay.
Well, I could sleep really good, but I was not good at like getting it to land on the string, which is kind of the next plateau as yo-yo tricks
I see what
go.
You're saying.
Is that you get it to sleep, and then you start doing string tricks with it, where you can whip it up and do the tightrope walker, where you whip it around your finger and it lands on the string, and you let it roll across the string, and then whip it back around. And
or isn't there one like that's like the kind of like a pendulum where you get it to sleep, you whip it up, and then you create like a loop that you're holding with one hand, so it actually has like two lines of string in it, and like you kind of swing it like you're hypnotizing somebody with a clock, and then you drop it and it retracts back up or something.
Right. I was never good at those, and there's special yo-yos that help with that, which have a wider, like the butterfly style has the wider lip, so it's easier to get it on the string. But I was never very good at those. But I was able to do this trick, and I was like, that's awesome. And it's impressive. Even now, people look in, they're like, whoa, that's cool,
Right.
And so I worked on that for a while. But yeah, that was the apex of my yo-yoing, the UFO. But I can still do it. Like, people, whenever I see someone play with a yo-yo, I'm like, check this out. Whoa, what's up, 10-year-old kid? And they're like, that's crazy. So, there you go.
That's awesome. So you could just pick up a yo-yo, like a decent yo-yo, I should say, and just pull that out at any time?
Yeah, if someone has a yo-yo, you gotta make sure I can get to sleep, right? So you do a couple of, all right, let me make sure I can sleep this. And if you can, then I can pull that out.
Because, I definitely, remember trying to figure this out and figuring out, how yo-yo works, mainly by just the fact that if you have a good yo-yo and you try to wrap it up, you won't be able to wrap it up.
It's tough, yeah.
Unless you get that little catch,
Right.
You're like, oh, I messed up this trick, and it's just sitting there at the bottom of the string, totally motionless or just dangling there. And it's like, oh, I'm going to wrap it up. And you go to wrap it up, and it just spins and spins and spins because you don't have that little catch, in order to get it to wrap up and all that kind of stuff. And so, I remember I never got that good, really, at all. I mean, I could maybe do the cradle, but I didn't practice enough to be able to grab it at the right spots, because you gotta be able to make that little triangle and all that kind of stuff. And so, I pretty much just got to sleep and walk the dog. I liked how it does little skitter, the little
mm-hmm.
and everything on Walk the Dog, but I definitely did not put a lot of time into... I did have a couple of yo-yos, though. But, no, that's very cool. I love that you can still do it, though. That's the best part.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just muscle memory, yo-yo, or
no,
UFO.
and I did it so much, you would think, even after this amount of time, just your timing would be off or whatever, just with catching the string,
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's all the muscle memory is still there.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did not that long ago. I don't know, 6 months ago or something. I don't remember what the situation was, but I did, or who had the yo-yo. But yeah, it hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Hidden talents, man. It's good stuff.
There you go.
Yeah. Should we get to the new?
Let's get to the new, man. What's the new with Chew?
The new with me is... Okay, so I had a little bit of a juxtaposition at work today.
Okay.
So I've been kind of fulfilling this manager power vacuum thing that we have going on here.
Okay.
And with somebody who's on maternity leave and everything.
Oh, gotcha.
And everything. And so I've been sitting in on interviews now for, entry level positions and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting because, I'm like interviewing people for the job that I interviewed for last year, right?
Uh-huh.
So, in doing this, I'm still like an hourly employee that's, just like, oh, well, yeah, you want my opinion because, I'm working back there. So, yeah, that's awesome. But, like, if somebody needs to request time off or needs to talk about something, schedule changes or whatever, like, I send them to the higher-ups, right?
Okay.
Well, we have a policy where if you're going to be sick, out sick, you need to email this email address that goes to all the managers of the lab so that they can plan accordingly, right? Because, if you're not going to be there, depending on your position, then somebody's got to pick up the slack, right? And so we need to move some people around, borrow some people for some other teams. And it's just easier if everybody's on the same page instead of like, oh, did you hear that Randall's sick? Oh, no. It's just kind of like, okay, all the managers know Randall's sick. They can start divvying up responsibilities, right? And everybody, pretty much knows this. And sometimes the, emails come in, way later than they should. Like, your shift starts at 8, but you don't email till 10. It's like, well, yeah, now we're 2 hours behind. We're we just were waiting for you and stuff like that. So it's still not a perfect system, right? I mean, people are sick, whatever.
Yeah, well, that's a hard thing. Yeah, it's a hard thing with sickness sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we had this juxtaposition today where this guy was out Monday, and he usually emails in when he's sick. Like, he was sick back in July for a whole week, and he emailed every day. Well, when I say emailed, he sent an email from his phone's texting app, I want to say. So it comes through as phone number at AT&T.net, and then the email is blank and it just has a text attachment. So it looks sketchy as shiz.
Okay.
So when he first did it, we're like, what the crap is... Everybody's like, what the crap is this? And we had to get IT to open it, because nobody wanted to touch it. And stuff. It's like, oh, it's this guy, he's saying he's sick. And we're like, oh my gosh, you kidding me? So now when it comes in, we're like, ugh, here's, this guy's, spam email, phishing emails, trying to get us to download a virus or something, because you have to, anyway.
Right.
But he's been pretty professional about it, all that kind of different stuff. But then, on Monday, no email, and he's not there. So I texted him, I'm like, hey man, are you coming in? He's like, oh, I sent an email. No, I'm not coming in. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't see an email, and I'm on that email account. The manager's emails come to me as well, so I can kind of plan. And then Tuesday, I get a text from him about an hour after he's supposed to be there. That's still sick, or something like that, still feeling sick or something. And I was like, oh, okay, that's it. And I'm like, okay, well, can you please email this, group? like this doesn't count. That's the thing.
Right.
You telling me helps me plan for you being gone, but it doesn't, like, that's not the policy, right?
Right.
And so our HR person is just like, well, if they don't email in, like they're going to get written up. That's like, or we could let them go and consider it job abandonment because they're not technically notifying us the way that we've outlined in the handbook and stuff. So she's kind of upset about it because there's a little bit of history of people doing this before a holiday, and everything.
Sure.
Labor Day coming up. This person already had PTO requests for the end of the week, so it's like, oh, is this person just trying to, beef up their 3-day weekend to now a whole week off and
right,
kind of
right.
Long story shorter, I should say, they came in today and kind of had some words with HR about this situation. And HR's like, you have no PTO hours in your bank, like because you use them when you get them, and you were sick for a whole week and blah blah blah, and you're gonna be out, Thursday, Friday, like that's like all your PTO. So technically, being out to Monday, Tuesday used up that PTO, so you need to come in tomorrow. Like, it's been approved, but you're out of hours. You know what I mean? And so it's like, and it was like it. Of course, HR kind of throws around the thing like, well, like, this, could be termination, right? Because everything's a termination, no offense,
right.
The discipline up to termination, up to and including termination is in their vocabulary, and that's all people hear, right? So I get the juxtaposition is this guy, like, he won't tell us, like, I asked him, like, hey man, like, what happened, like, what did it, and he wouldn't really admit what he was sick with or anything. He had like a splint on his finger, and it took me like I asked him about it, and he's just like, oh yeah, I hurt my finger. And I'm like, well, I figured that you come in with like a splint on your finger, and and then eventually he's like, oh well, I heard it, helping a buddy move some lumber and stuff. And it's like, okay, is this like what you were sick with? Like, I mean, it doesn't matter. But there's a difference between I'm sick, no explanation, I have no empathy for you,
right.
You could be lying, and hey man, I smashed my finger, I can't repeatedly do this job that I use both hands for. Okay, there's, kind of a big difference there. Flip to this other kid who comes in, and he just started there a couple, 2 weeks ago, and he's working, and then he kind of has to stop, and he walks out and goes to the restroom, and he comes back, and then he kind of like does a small task, and then he goes back out to the restroom, and then he comes back in, and he can't even put his gloves on because his hands are shaking. And I'm like, hey man, is everything okay? And he's just like, my grandfather died, and he's like in another country, and I can't go, to see him, or it's like, I can't go to be with my family because of COVID and all this kind of stuff. And he just kind of unloads this. And I'm like, this kid came to work. This kid came to work. So that I said, oh man, I'm so sorry. And that's terrible. And he kind of, I mean, I feel really bad for him because he just kind of balled up, like literally crouched down and just kind of cried for like a minute or so. And then he came in, he's like, I'm so sorry, I need to go. And I'm like, go talk to HR and, tell them what's going on. And, you can go home for the day, and they'll work with you on, bereavement and stuff like that. Because he doesn't have PTO either, really, because he just started there. But I mean, like, extenuating circumstances, obviously.
Right.
And so that's like the big juxtaposition. This one kid doesn't care enough to give me an explanation with even a legit reason, like I, broke my finger, whereas this other one's like working, trying, and like, going through this horrible thing in his life.
Right.
And I'm like, can't there just be a happy medium where it's just like we're reasonable people, like if you have a serious situation like that, it's like, hey, I had a death in the family and I'm having a really hard time. Like, okay, we understand. Don't worry about it. We can cover your shift. Versus like, am I going to get fired because I don't have enough PTO? It's like, well, do you want to get fired? Because it kind of sounds like it,
Right.
Like, it's just, kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. But it was an interesting day for HR and myself, just to be like, oh my gosh, like these two people like are treating their jobs very differently. Where one doesn't seem to care and one like does and really wants to be here.
Right.
Stuff. So anyway, so that's the joys of human resources and management and everything. But anyway, what's new with you, man?
Hey, have I ever told you about the YouTube channel Secret Base?
Secret BASE? Base?
Uh-huh.
No.
So it's a sports channel, but they have different series on there. Like, there's different things that they do. But They have a series on there that's called Dorktown.
Okay. Sorry. That yawn was not meant for you. It's just getting
Well, let me think of something else to talk about then. No, but they have a series called Dorktown, which is basically they look through these weird stories that they drive the stories through stat charts. So sometimes there's clips and stuff, but most of it is like this really kind of satisfyingly visual chart work, which it's hard to explain, but it's like they put it in like a 3D environment and they'll like zoom out and they'll pan around it and zoom in and like add to the charts as like the story goes on. And they've
like what are they charting exactly?
Well, it depends on the story. So sometimes, if they're talking about a quarterback who, just pulling for instance, this is not necessarily something that they've done, but like if they're talking about a quarterback who is specifically bad or something, then they'll bring up a chart of like all the quarterbacks from like, the merged NFL history plotted with a certain stat that supposedly shows how good they are and shows, how far terrible this person is, like separated from these other people.
Okay.
They'll do that, or they'll chart the games out. And I'm talking about football because I'm watching one right now that is football. But they'll chart the games out where they have like the playing field per quarter, and they'll show the different drives, just like as like bars on the. But they'll talk about it and what it, and again they'll show us some clips and things like this. So there's two really long form videos that they've done on this series. One, the history of the Seattle Mariners, and one the history of the Atlanta Falcons, which is really new. They just came out with it. I don't know even if all the parts are out yet. It's like a Oh, I don't even know if it's definitely a 6-part series because I don't think all the parts are out yet. But anyways, so you would think. So the history of the Seattle Mariners, which I watched, and not a big Mariners fan. I don't know much about them at all. Mm-hmm. Not the biggest baseball fan either, but there was, I don't know. They had different parts of it, but like all together, I wanted to say it was like over 4 hours, like, of the story, which is mostly charts. And you would think that would be extremely boring, but it was super fascinating.
So it's just, it's potentially like, basically now that they can like combine, they've digitized all these stats, they can just probably just pull from years and years and just be like, this is as many hot dogs as were served. This is many like times on base, for this player versus this player.
Right.
Like
so they have a lot of that stuff, but like with the history of these teams, one thing that they're doing right now for like the Atlanta Falcons is they're charting all their wins and losses from like the beginning of franchise history. And strangely enough, I don't know if I can explain this. Do you know what the Falcons emblem looks like? It's like the bird's head is in is in profile. So it's on the side, and it kind of has like this big kind of wing that kind of curves down and back under the head, almost like it's a claw, almost.
You're talking about the
like their logo, like that's on their helmets. Anyways.
Okay. Oh, sorry. You're talking about the football team. Yeah. I'm like, I thought for a second it was like, what baseball team is the Falcons?
No,
yes,
I'm sorry.
100%.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. So the thing that they've done is they've turned that kind of on its side so that the wing is going down, like the dip of the wing is going below, and they've erased the wing and they're charting all their wins and losses. Down where the wing would be, and it is uncannily close to the actual wing, because in the franchise history, I haven't made it all the way through, but like at the very beginning of their history, they lost a lot, and then they got really good kind of recently. So like the line where it starts is 500. So it's like if you're losing, then you're under 500, right? And if you're winning, then you're above. It's like the 50-50 line. And they're just losing, just historically. And so it's like they're graphing it, and it's basically creating the wing of the logo as they go, which is amazing that anyone would ever even see that trend could fill that in. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's just a part of it. And then they're just talking the history. So they talk about the coaches and the players, and they talk about like kind of landmark games and what it means, and rivalries and all this stuff. And, but also just weird facts about the history. The Mariners' history was really interesting at the beginning, because there was all these random weird things that happened kind of at the beginning of their life that didn't really have anything to do with the team winning or losing, but there was these weird situations that were surrounded, that like happened around the building of like the playing field, and just some weird things that happened in the city that had to do with them. But they cover all this stuff in a very interesting way, and it sounds super boring, but again, like, neither of these teams I'm like invested in whatsoever, but I'm interested to watch these weird videos about it. So,
I mean, I could definitely see that, because like, if you get into the it's kind of like we were talking about with just kind of watching a day in your own life, you know, and like a day in anybody's life. I mean, if we could get invested in so much minutia, you know, and just to see how like things turned out or people handle different things and stuff like that. Like, I think it's very interesting.
There's there's a lot like shorter form videos that they do in this format as well. Mm-hmm. You know, and one they talk about this terrible drive that had a ripple effect and changed the history of the NFL. And that's like, you know, short, just under 20 minutes or something. But I watched it, very interesting. And, you know, and again, they're coming at it statistically, so they kind of have these charts and they're showing these things. And, you know, again, that's a really clear way to kind of show if you have the right stat and how this drive changed the way that they looked at things or whatever. They can show that. And anyways, it's very interesting. So if you have any interest in that, I would go and check some of the shorter like version kind of things first to see if it's of interest. But
Secret Base?
Secret Base is what it's called. If you just search Dorktown, one word, then that particular series will pop up, because they have more series on Secret Base besides this thing, and they're all pretty interesting sports videos, but those are the ones that I've liked a lot recently. So,
nice. All right. Well, that I believe is how we do a podcast.
That's how it's done, folks.
Yep.
In case you were wondering, we're teaching a master class. No. No.
But I am Brando.
Taggart.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
No, I just thought about that. Some people introduce themselves at the end because I don't know if people forget, or I don't know. There's only two of us to keep track of. And,
yeah, it's not too hard. You know, I hope it's not too hard.
Yeah. But just in case you forgot, or you some reason skipped over the intro because it was... we got
just
into it pretty quick.
End. Like, I just listened to the last 5 minutes of a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But in any case, all or a little bit, if you're hearing this, then you're welcome. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Being there with us. And hit us up. Also, Tag and Brando, gmail.com, and Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those good places. Mm-hmm. And join us on our Patreon. We will be releasing a special that we do on Patreon, beginning to the end, and giving you a little taste of what that is like, and hope you'll join us for the rest of them. Everybody, keep it gelling.
Keep it gelling.
Yep.
Love it.
Bye.
Bye.